This is The Discourse with Dr. Ken.
Hello out there. Good afternoon once more. This is The Discourse with Dr. Ken. It's another Sunday we have here. And today we have a fantastic subject for The Discourse. Today's topic for The Discourse is the Nigerian economy 1 year after. And my guest is Tilewa Adebajo. Tilewa, during the week I read Professor Chidi Odenkalo, and he was talking about STD. But STD now is... what he meant was sexually transmitted distinction, not disease, you know. And he was saying that in a country and season in which candor is not always seen as a virtue, those who make it the currency of their daily lives are either idealized, endangered, or idealized into endangerment. What he meant is that on the Nigerian streets today, a person who addresses issues of public significance with candor can be described as having broken the table. So he tried to break the table during the week. So these days, discussing the Nigerian economy is like breaking the table. Do you feel so, or do you agree with him?
Not really. The Nigerian economy is something that we all need to put a significant emphasis on, because our welfare, our well-being, the prosperity of this country, and the realization of our potential and goals all depends on how we run our economy, the resources that are abound in this country. How do we utilize them to the benefit of society, our people? I think are paramount. And if we do not do that properly, I think we'll continue to have the problems that we're currently experiencing. So I think I don't agree that it's central. That's the reason you're being. The whole essence of why do people go to other countries? Because those people have made life easy for their citizens. And the quality of life is really what needs to be done. So we need to be able to do the same thing here. So it's definitely not a no-go area. It's an area where we need to spend more time and emphasis on. And more importantly, we need to hold our politicians and our leadership more accountable on the delivery of the economic standards that we should set. But right now we don't have standards.
Talking about standards, we are going to try to hold those. And by the way, I align with you completely. We can't tire about discussing the economy. Otherwise, what are we living for? The economy is the foundation, is the bedrock, without which we cannot possibly understand the essence of life and why we live. In fact, I count myself as one of the most optimistic people you can see around. But these days, there's a temptation to begin to lose a bit of that optimism and begin to lose hope. But if you listen to Andy Grove, he says only the paranoid survive. Do you agree with him? You know, I'm talking about the former board member, in fact, chief executive and board chairman of Intel. He says only the paranoid survive.
Well, in a different society, there's a different level of paranoia.
Okay.
Paranoia is not worrying. He doesn't worry about NEPA or water
the fundamentals.
or the fundamentals. So if you take a look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he's at a different level of self-actualization. So his level of paranoia is about how he's going to innovate and continue to be relevant. And because you have the basics, you're able to innovate, you're able to
think freely,
look at how you can change things. If you take a look at the New York Stock Exchange now, Nirvana is the stock of the day. 10 years ago, that company didn't exist. So now you can see that tech stocks are now taking fold. The likes of the General Motors,
the FMCGs,
the banks, and all these other companies are no longer on the top tier of the exchange, which shows you the shift, in innovation and, them being paranoid, because they know that if you do not innovate, if you do not change,
you'll die.
You become
extinction.
Yes, you become extinct, or you just become a regular old company.
So it's the parameters and the platforms are quite different.
Extremely different.
This is The Discourse with Dr. Ken.
Nigerians are getting or going through hell. They are getting a fair portion of hell, quote and when I mean hell, quote and unquote. So what are the most significant challenges facing Nigerian economy today?
Well, leadership and management.
Leadership and management.
Yes.
Okay.
First of all, I think it's important that we dimension the economy itself.
Okay.
One of the biggest problems we've had in Nigeria is the structure of our economy and not understanding where to place the priorities in terms of incentives, inconsistencies in policy formulation, to be able to create the right incentives. Obviously, there are factors of production, and everybody has a comparative advantage.
Okay.
Japan and Korea are heavy importers of crude oil, which they refine. They don't manufacture crude oil. So every country has something it has to import in significant quantities, including the United States, significant importation from China, because China is where it has its production base. We keep saying we don't manufacture anything in Nigeria, but Americans at a particular level don't manufacture a lot of things because the factors of production are cheaper elsewhere. So they manufacture that and import it to the States. But they do all the innovation. They do all the designs, and their factories are outside the country. But their auto plants and all their aircraft manufacturing is done there. So we haven't really looked at the structure of our economy to decide on what our industrial base would look like. We have oil, but we haven't developed our petrochemical industry post Dangote. So the only thing we have an Eleme petrochemical, we have a refinery, Dangote now. For years we didn't have that. And what are we doing with gas, and how much, with so much gas we have, we're not even able to use the gas to generate power to satisfy our needs. So there's a lot of structural defects within the Nigerian economy that we haven't addressed over the years. And to make matters worse, Nigeria has subjected itself to shocks, which is the fact that since we've become oil dependent, we haven't really set up the structures that we need. If you take a look at Norway, for instance, Norway has a sovereign wealth fund that has about $1.5 trillion in assets. And last year, that fund delivered revenues of $230 billion. Norway, for a country that has a population of less than 10 million people. But they have used their oil to understand that, okay, we're going to create a sovereign wealth fund and we're going to create a stabilization fund. The Saudis have also done that. You've seen what they've done in terms of creating their sovereign wealth fund, which is close to another $900 billion. So you've seen what they've done with Saudi Aramco. Profits you've seen this year, they've just did an offer, which they raised $13 billion. So structurally, our economy is not right. Because we've not positioned our economy to absorb all the shocks. So if there's a problem with oil prices, then Nigeria suffers.
Okay.
But right now we've gotten so bad that even now the oil price is at $80, $90, where Nigeria should be smiling, we can't even produce. We're only producing 1.3 million barrels. Nigeria was producing 2.5 million barrels of oil in 1977.
1977?
Yes, 2.5 million barrels. We have not been able to exceed that. As a matter of fact, now that has dropped. We've only been able to...
Almost 1 million.
Yes, so we've not been able to... We have the Train 7 now with LNG. We're supposed to have 3 LNG plants. We're supposed to have Olokola and Brass LNG and the NLNG. We didn't go ahead with the other 2 investments in LNG. LNG Train 7 is operating at 50% capacity because there's no gas, and they've cancelled Train 8. So if you take a look at your oil and gas industry, which is supposed to be the goose that lays the golden egg, we haven't made investments in that industry, and that's declined over the years. So we're suffering in that area. The consequences are clear. If not for Dangote that built his $18 billion refinery, we'll be in big trouble. But Dangote's refinery is facing the rest of the world. We should understand that. It's not just Nigeria, because the capacity of the Dangote refinery is in excess of Nigeria's requirement.
Requirement, yes.
So, so he needs to sell his production, not just in Nigeria, but outside Nigeria. So we can't absorb his capacity. So we need to understand that. So these are the structural issues that we need to look at. But unfortunately, over the last 8 years, Buhari's administration was one of unmitigated disaster. And we lost our GDP was close to $700 billion. It's now down to 260 billion as a result of the devaluation. So the last 1 year has also been a major problem of putting the cart before the horse, and a situation whereby the economic policies have not really been thought through properly.
And we'll talk about that, because I have a message here who is saying that Tilly, that he encountered you on the 23rd of January this year at the Discourse, live Discourse program at the Civic Center, and that you opened his mind that he had not recovered from the basic truths you put on the table, and he thought that whoever was listening, whether it is private or government, would have taken advantage of that. But till today, we are still talking about potentials of the nation. But he's saying that these potentials and the structure we have not taken advantage of has not hit the citizenry positively, because we don't know where we are going and what have we invested on since that time, if it's not in infrastructure. So we can't see or feel it. So he is saying that how can we wake up this giant? How can we, in simple terms, wake up this giant? Because all this time we've had government, we've had people, we have thinkers, we have a resemblance of management of our resources. But he's saying, how can we wake up this giant?
How do we wake up this giant? The Economist of London wrote an article some time ago. I can't forget that article. Okay. I'm still actually looking for it. He wrote an article on Nigeria, and that was about 20 years ago. And the article was, has anyone seen a giant? Because they felt that they haven't seen the giant. Talked about potential. So we're at crossroads.
Okay.
And we've always been at crossroads. And the fact that we have heavily politicized our economy, the politicians get away with whatever it is they want to get away with. So the citizenry, I don't think, is that active in terms of holding the politicians accountable. And I think we saw that in terms of what the former CBN governor did with the Ways and Means financing, which went from, a limit of less than $1 trillion, and it went to 23.7 trillion. This administration also drew down about 7.5 trillion of Ways and Means last year. And you have a situation whereby the Senate begins to pass an illegality by securitizing Ways and Means, when the CBN Act, Section 38, says clearly that you shouldn't do that. And now they come back and they say they want to amend the CBN Act. So there's a lot of contradiction going on at the moment. So in order for us to wake up this sleeping giant, I think we're all tired of talking about what we need to do.
Just potentials. We've been talking about potentials for 60 years.
Yes, we need to sit down and, roll up our sleeves and start looking at how we're going to implement. It's all about implementation. So you can't, it's just so unfortunately for this administration, one of the most important things now is, when you're going through structural reforms, is the social intervention programs. But you can see with this lady, what's the name of the minister?
The humanitarian one.
Yes.
Is it Betty?
Yeah, you can see the corruption that, you just started this. This was supposed to be a significant thing. And before we could say Jack Robinson, they've mismanaged it. So you see, these signals are not very positive in the sense that, a critical part of your reform program is to be able to say how you are going to cushion the effects to the populace. And the people you put in charge of that, have already started dipping their hands in the cookie jar even before the program was to kick off, because whatever reforms the government was doing, the social intervention programs was the most critical, because that was what should have cushioned the effect, to be able to allow people to say, okay, well, you'll cushion these effects while we wait
some benefit of doubt
for the benefits to accrue of the reforms. But at least you have some social intervention. So that's false start right there.
So if we're looking at Nigeria, is it right to say that if Nigeria was a company, is under receivership?
Insolvent.
Insolvent.
Yes.
So what happens to an insolvent company?
You liquidate
bankrupt.
it.
You liquidate it. So what do we do to Nigeria?
NDIC. Well,
so what do we do to Nigeria?
Luckily, Nigeria is a sovereign. So, I mean, when you have a situation whereby 80 to 90% of revenue is going towards debt service, you have a situation whereby another 20 trillion, the debt profile now is at 100 trillion. So, you know, it's a lot of borrowing, a lot of leverage. So if it was a balance sheet in a bank, the bank would have called in the facility a long time. But because we're a sovereign nation, there are many things we're able to get away with because we still issue treasury bonds at premium risk-free rates. So government still has those advantages. But, you know, those advantages are things that we need to use to restructure the debt and to be able to try to see how you can put the economy back on hand. So basically, we need to roll up our sleeves and, you know, there's no more slogans, no more plans, no more reviews. You know, it's time to sit back, be steadfast, and deliver policies to results. But so far, we've been putting the cart before the horse.
Because the way it is, Nigeria, successive leadership just treat Nigeria as if it was a high-rise, that what it needed was maintenance. But it's actually a construction site, isn't it?
Yeah, you need to rejig the foundation. I think you need to pull down that high-rise and you start to rebuild the foundation. Because the foundation that we've built is not going to get us to where we're going. And I think that's evident.
That's evident.
So that's why when the reform programs came out, a lot of us were in support of that reform program. But the way that reform program has been implemented leaves a lot to be desired. You know, the finance minister, it took 3 months before you put in a finance minister. It took 4 months to put in a central bank governor. But in that 4 months, you had caused a lot of chaos by removing the subsidy and making an announcement on foreign exchange, which threw the markets into turmoil. So over the last 1 year, you've seen a 250% devaluation of the currency, which is the worst in the history of Nigeria. And you've seen the central bank governor arrested. So if you're going to do these things, nobody's saying that, but you should have waited until your finance minister was in place, until your central bank governor was in place. You tell them what you want to do, and then let them find the way to implement that. So by the time these guys came into their office, they already inherited a big mess.
And tattering for balance.
Yeah, so now they're now trying to struggle to get things going. Inflation is running away. The monetary policy was not, you know, times you should have hiked rates. You didn't do that for like close to 9 months to a year. So by then, inflation was already run away. So now we're playing catch up now. So if we're going to stabilize this economy, we need another year to stabilize this economy, get inflation.
Did you say 1 more year?
A year, yes.
Because the man who will be alarmed, you know, is a businessman out there, because it's already very difficult for the average businessman, or in fact any business in Nigeria. One word to qualify the state of doing business in Nigeria is difficult. So if it's 1 year down the line, how more difficult will it be?
Well, it gets more difficult in the sense that at least the only thing we see now is that the foreign exchange is gradually finding its level. We're seeing some sort of settlement in the markets. There is stability in terms of flows, and because with the interest rates now that are being adjusted, we're beginning to see savings. Pension funds, the savers and investors are benefiting from high savings rates. Unfortunately, the real sector is also complaining about high interest rates, but that will have to be temporary, at least for the next year, before we begin to take a look at rate cuts. So the orthodoxy you see is things that you see globally. You've seen what's happened in the UK, where they've been able to take the inflation down from about 11% down to 2%. That's because of consistent policy, and they started on time, because a lot of the problem in the world was post-COVID.
Okay.
After all the money that had been pumped into the system because of the pandemic, the central banks were caught napping. They didn't start to increase rates. Once the economy started to recover and things could start to get back to normal, they didn't increase rates on time. So they got caught away with inflation. So now everybody's now at the end of their inflation reduction cycles. You see, most central banks in the world are now contemplating, when they're going to cut rates, not if they're going to cut rates. But for us, we're still at the upper side of the cycle where we need to bring inflation down. So that's why it's going to take another year.
This is The Discourse with Dr. Ken.
The Naira has been gyrating between 1,400 and 1,500 lately. Which is the bigger challenge, the exchange rate or the stability of the rate?
Both.
Okay.
Like I said earlier, you do not make pronouncements on your foreign exchange rate without having a finance minister and a central bank governor in place. Once you make that mistake, you've seen the 250% devaluation in the rates. You're going to see volatility, uncertainty. People will be speculating, the rates will be going up. Because at the end of the day, what's the aggregate demand for foreign exchange in Nigeria on a regular basis? What has been driving the market is speculation, not demand and supply.
Okay.
Because if your economy is growing at 3%, then obviously we know what the demand for foreign exchange has been average over the last 10 years. So what is driving the demand? We know the supply of FX. So the irony is the fact that the government, unfortunately, because of low oil production, we're seeing revenues are not coming in, and there's still no transparency in the dollar inflows from oil sales. There's all kinds of swaps, so that account needs to be reconciled. So let's understand the true position. Even out of the 1.3 million barrels a day we're producing, we already know that maybe 45% of that or 50% of that belongs to our JV partners. So out of our own half of it, how much of that has been compromised with the forward contracts, and how much are we really bringing in on a monthly basis from foreign exchange?
So transparency.
We need that transparency, because at a point in time, the subsidy payments under the Buhari regime was between $10 to $15 billion, and they claim that they were using all the oil proceeds to pay subsidy, which I think is ridiculous. It's not possible. So we need to reconcile those accounts and understand what those inflows are and where those inflows are. Because that money should still be coming in, or something should be coming in, and how much of that money is ending up in the financial, in the foreign exchange markets. Then, of course, we know the diaspora money is about $25 to $30 billion. And then other remittances, you're seeing other capital importation was at a high of $20 billion, but that went down to as low as $1 billion. So with the foreign exchange regime and with the new structural adjustments by the central bank in terms of monetary policy, foreign portfolio investments have started coming back in at about $1 billion a month. So that's also helping the markets, but the central bank is not intervening as much as they used to. So we need to know what's happening with those dollars and what has been compromised by the Buhari regime and what has been pledged by this, because there's another deal with the Afro-Exim here. So how many barrels are you compromising, and for how long? So there needs to be some clarity and transparency around that, because once we know that, then it will help stabilize the foreign exchange market.
So the emphasis is on clarity and transparency. So, but is there still subsidy in your estimation, or are we still paying subsidy on oil? Your estimation,
Doctor, you know the answer to that question, which is what I told you. You come and you announce subsidy, which was we removed it, and then you messed up your exchange rate regime. So that means that you now require more money naira to be able to import the same amount of fuel.
Yeah.
So that means that the effect of your in effect is a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why you didn't manage that at the beginning.
Yeah.
You don't announce a subsidy removal and then you screw up your exchange rate by devaluation of 250%.
Yeah.
So you
have a catapult effect.
Exactly. So your net sum game is zero.
Yeah.
Because in one way, you've increased the price of fuel, but then you now devalue by 250%, and then you're importing this product. So when you bring it down, you have to make adjustment of the price. So that made nonsense. The FX regime made nonsense of that. So yes, we're still paying subsidy, but it might not be 100%.
Yes.
But we don't know what it is. But there was a bit of controversy from the information we got last week that the amount of subsidy has increased to 5.7 trillion.
Yeah.
So, and there's a need for a supplementary budget. So we need clarity on a lot of things.
But still talking about reforms and how we've approached some of the remedies. Recently, there was a rumor of an emergency economic recovery document submitted to the president, even though it was later denied. But from the components of that document, if you have seen it, what are they, and how do you feel confident that just could be it? And it's coming 1 year late, isn't it?
Definitely, because these are things you should have known.
Yeah.
But having said that, I think it's better late than never.
Yeah.
So, but the essence of the fact that the document clearly said that it was a draft, but the statement by the presidential spokesman, I think, was a bit confusing.
Yeah.
Because
and has always been anyway. But we'll get to messaging anyway.
Yeah, so this is something else because you can't afford all these with the economy. Again, this will impact your foreign exchange rates. This will impact investor confidence. As you said, businessmen are not sure.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? How are we going to do these things? How am I going to manage my prices? I'm importing goods. Where will inflation be at the end of the year? Where will exchange rates be? Then, of course, you can now begin to see that there's a price increase, there's a pass-through with those devaluation, which will now filter through to pricing and also begin to fuel inflation also. So we need to be very careful. So, but for me, that was a very good document.
Yeah.
And I think the finance minister has, understood from that document, understands the issues, but like I said, it's the sequencing. By the time he came in, they'd already done quite a lot of things. If they had given him the opportunity, to implement the plan, it would have been easy. But by the time he came in, they had already put the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
So he needs to unbundle that, then put the horse before the cart, which I will believe is what this document is. So now that you have put the horse before the cart, then you need the approval and you need the presidential support to be able to implement, and you need to bring the whole team, because it's not just the finance minister. He's the coordinating minister of the economy. The central bank has to play its role.
Yeah.
Trade and investment needs to be able to play its role. Agriculture is very important because of food inflation. So there needs to be a coordination. So there has to be a Nigerian symphony orchestra, and the coordinating minister of the economy needs to stand in front of that orchestra as the conductor, and he needs to coordinate to ensure that things are working in the right manner. And but the only thing that they have going for them now is the fact that both monetary policy and fiscal policy are now in alignment.
Kicking the gear.
Yes.
Do you see that symphony of orchestra? From what you've seen so far, do you see that team? Is this something we can hope? Are you hopeful? Do you see that symphony, and then do you see the orchestra humming?
Well, if you look at the talent, if you take a look at the individual band members, the talent, you say, okay, this is a nice piano player, this is a nice...
Do you see that?
There, we see the individual players to say, okay, they have the competence now. So, but the orchestra has not started playing. Yeah,
but talking about individual, because I hear you mentioned agriculture.
Yes.
And one or two other ministries.
Trade and investment.
But yes. If I ask the producer now, who's our Minister of Agriculture, I'm not sure not many Nigerians will remember who that is.
Well, as long as it's effective. What Nigerians want to know is that the price of food has come down. So then they will find out everybody want to find out who is the minister that has done this work by bringing the cost of food down. So people are not interested as long as you're doing your work, which is the whole essence of what needs to be done. It doesn't need to be personality driven. If you're doing your work, people will seek you out. So I don't really think that's the problem. So But the question is that, what have you delivered after 1 year? We've seen that instead of food prices going down, they've increased significantly, astronomically, as a matter of fact.
This is The Discourse with Dr. Ken.
Unfortunately, what these complaints complain about is that Nigeria has two sides. The companies who are big companies who pay their duties, pay their taxes, and follow the law, the government doesn't treat them well. But then you also have all these other companies that break the law. They don't pay the right duty. They bring in substandard products. They're manufacturing substandard products. They are the ones that thrive because they're able to get away with all kinds of things. And so a lot of all these companies are complaining that the playing field is not level. So that's why you see a lot of them are leaving, and because
so are we paying sufficient attention to that?
I don't.
In
think,
your own estimation,
I don't think so.
Because that's a dangerous trend. By the time one multinational after, apart from the signal it sends there, but
because
even the economic impact is so huge. So I don't feel that people are sufficiently disturbed about that.
Yeah, it's a shame because you see we have become a sachet economy. So you see a lot of the big multinational companies, in order to react, even alcohol is sold in sachets. It has been done for a long time. So everybody now is selling in sachets because nobody can afford that. Because
even the truth now is dished in
sachets,
isn't it? Because you just asked of transparency. So even the truth is dished out in sachets.
So we need to look at our industrial policy. We need to take a relook at our industrial policy, to take a look at production. Because if you take a look at Procter & Gamble, I worked as a senior technical advisor to the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment about 10 years ago. And one of the things I did was I had a portfolio of both local direct investments and foreign direct investments. Local direct investments was to look at companies that were in Nigeria to get them to expand their existing facilities. And we got a lot of companies to expand their existing facilities and also give them the pioneer status incentive as for those expansions. Because, they're already here, but I said, look, if you expand and you build a new factory, that new factory, not your old factory, will get the pioneer status. And a lot of people responded. And that was when a company like Procter & Gamble came in and brought in $300 million here. But now they're telling you that your industrial policy is not working, so it's easier for me to import than manufacture in your country. So it's better. Let me also appoint an agent who can go and source his foreign exchange however he wishes to source it. Because when I try to source foreign exchange, you put all these documents in front of me. But there are people who know people and find their way to get the foreign exchange, and they get a comparative advantage. So let me find an agent also, and I sit back and let him come and let him come and buy my products and let him import it to Nigeria on my behalf. So that's where we are now. Our industrial policy needs to shift to be able to encourage these manufacturers to continue the level of manufacturing they have in Nigeria.
Talking about industrial policy, because I know you, and then from what I know, you've worked with, was it Aganga?
Yes.
And then you are quite close to that ministry and what they do. Even the recent, the current one, I've seen a couple of, I've seen enough to know that you are eager to assist and to help, because I've seen some meetings that have gone on with you and the Ministry of Trade and Investment. So, talking trade, what should Nigeria particularly be doing now in the area of trade and trade facilitation?
The most important things we need to do now is all our HS codes are not in alignment with the reality of today. And customs are notorious with these HS codes in terms of duties, taxing people. You see, if I'm importing something and I want to manufacture it, if you begin to put all these high duties on it, then the product becomes higher and inflation is there. So that when you take a look at all these draft things that they say people are saying, they make sense. Even though the presidential spokesman has casted some doubts on it, which is not very positive, but what they actually say makes sense. So because we need to look at a review of our HS codes, we need to take a look at our duty regime to be able to put it in a way whereby goods coming in and being manufactured here don't end up being expensive to continue to drive inflation up. Because if I'm if I'm getting FX and all my factors of production are high, I'm going to pass on those costs to the consumers.
Yes.
And don't forget that a lot of all these costs, they are passing them on to the consumer gradually. Most companies are now increasing their things gradually.
Yes.
So, and they've not finished passing those costs. Even the telecom industry, they're not as profitable as they should because their factors of production and the cost of productions have gone up. But because they're highly regulated, the government is not allowing them to increase their tariffs. But they need to in order to be able to sustain the level of their services. So what we need to do is our HS codes, we need to review them to make them that is in line with reality so that these companies can begin to import at a competitive rate and begin to put their products to market at a competitive rate. Then we take a look at our industrial policy, look at the incentives, and look at where we want to do. Let us take a look at what we did when I was in trade and investment. Obasanjo, when he came, made a decision that we're going to stop importing cement. Okay, this is where we've been successful, that we don't think about this. So when we got there, we worked with UNIDO, and UNIDO went round and looked at all the installed capacity of the cement manufacturing plants in Nigeria. Then we realized that we now have capacity not only to sustain the local market, but to export. So at that point in time, we decided that from that year, there was not going to be any allowed importation of cement. And the cement importation has been banned for the last 10 years in Nigeria. 12 years in Nigeria, that's a success. So now the next issue now is how do we bring down the price of cement? Because the cement prices are quite high. But we have been able to put in a policy that is backward integrated, and we now know that cement is being manufactured in Nigeria. So same thing for sugar, same thing for all these other products we are looking at. So we've been successful with cement, but then you now lose ground on the automotive sector. You lose ground on other sectors. So you have to put your eye on every sector of the area. What are we doing in pharmaceuticals? So that also has to be there. How do we get local production with pharmaceuticals? So these are the things that we need to look at because we've been successful in one area. So we need to sustain it across all industries.
Foundation already. So as a technical advisor, yours is to advise, and I know you're doing that frantically because you not only believe, but you are sufficiently concerned. But just like in football, if the technical advisor is advising, he's saying play 4-3-3, and the manager goes to play 3-5-2, the chances are that your flanks will be open and you will concede. So are they listening? If so, what has been the reaction so far?
Well, like I said, I'm not being paid. I'm not a paid advisor. So I'm a pundit.
Okay.
So as a pundit, what you do is you engage the stakeholders on a regular basis to find out what they're doing and how they're doing it and what they want to do, and you give your own suggestions. And you consider engage them and you help them with their communication. So basically I've engaged all these ministers. They've told me what they're doing, and we have to be in fairness. It's okay, well, good, great what you're doing, and get it out there and let people know what you're doing. But then at the end of the day, there still has to be a coordination. The conductor of that symphony still needs to come out and conduct it so that we can hear the music that's coming out properly. Everybody's singing and playing from the same hymn book. Very important. So, but after you've done that, you can only stay back. But you see, when I was working as a senior technical advisor, I told my minister I need to document all the things I'm doing in terms of how much I facilitated in local direct investments and how much I facilitated in foreign direct investments. And it's not just to say that we did it, but we need to track it and know that this is what we have accomplished in 3 years. And I think that record is there. And so these are the things I'm trying to explain to the ministers are engaged, and to see how we can help them to articulate their policies and to bring it to the public discourse. Because it's not as if they're not doing anything, but what you must always remember is the fact that no matter how hard you're working,
you don't tell, you don't sell.
Exactly. You don't tell, you don't sell. And as long as the price of Gary out there is higher than when you came in a year ago, the blame is going to be on you. So, and I think that that's the bottom line. So that's why you said, who is the Minister of Agriculture? When he reduces the price of food, everybody will start looking for him.
Yes. Yes, even though there is claim, Tilly, that violence and insecurity is no longer widespread across Nigeria. That the jury is still out anyway, but that has impacted food inflation, like you've just mentioned. So the food insecurity, now inflation is about over 40%, isn't it? So the question is, what consequences does this situation bring, really? Because a hungry man is an angry man. I think that's where the pressure is, food.
Definitely. We should not underestimate this insecurity thing. I don't believe this insecurity issue is a major problem, and it hasn't been tackled by this administration. Yes. I'm sorry, but again, we ask, who is the minister? Who are the ministers of defense?
Yes.
Because I understand there's a minister of defense and there's a minister of state for defense. What confidence are they bringing to the table? What is their program? What are the issues? Because the challenge of insecurity in Nigeria is the fact that our productive farmers are in IDP camps. That is the problem. Productive farmers
are in IDP
camps.
So the sector is captured.
So basically, you have reduced your productivity or your output of basic foods. So that is a big challenge. And if you do not solve this problem, then you're going to have all kinds of challenges, because there's banditry because of illegal artisanal mining, widespread in the northwest and the northeast, and even the north central. We know that there are issues in the north, significant issues in the north. We still have issues in the southeast. Even in the southwest, with all kinds of clashes and general security situations. So if you look at the security reports, and incidences and clashes that are being tracked by people, there's still a significant challenge. It's still not, foreign countries are giving travel advisories on Nigeria, and it's gotten to the level of which states you can go and which states you cannot go. So these are things that should be of concern to us, and I think, with the defense budget that we're seeing, we're not seeing the commensurate results, to be able to understand this problem, because you must know who the enemy is. This is not an enemy. This is not something that you are going to fight with just boots on the ground. The main essence of this insurgency in Nigeria, even with oil theft, is also a problem in the South-South. So that's a major issue. So the major issue resolution to this, you need to invest in human intelligence. It's intelligence, because you have to know who are these people, where are their supplies, they're bringing in arms into the country. That's a national security risk. Where do you intercept them? How do you infiltrate these groups and more or less take out their leaders? So if you do not have the political will to do that, then that right now there are all kinds of satellite imaging. You can track anything from anywhere. There's drone technology to be able to track. So why are we not deploying this technology to resolve this problem in Nigeria?
That's a question I would have asked. I wish we had the answers, because it's incredible. If we don't solve this issue around security, every other subject of conversation becomes minor.
This is The Discourse with Dr. Ken.
I was really, really very hopeful when this administration came in, because I know this is not Buhari. I mean, these are city boys, and they understand, they've been in business and they are close to people who do business. I've been singing this the difficult song around the ease of doing business, and this determines the justification for an investor's capital, allocation within countries. What exactly is holding us back? Why are we driving with the handbrake on the ease of doing business?
Well, you see, where this is happening, as had the most negative impact has been in the oil and gas industry. NNPC is extremely bureaucratic. If you want to now increase oil production to 700,000 barrels a day, permits and all kinds of things, the bureaucracy, vested interest, personal interests. You see, these are the things that holds back doing business in Nigeria. Believe me, you say you have a project today and tell them you want to start the project. The federal government doesn't have any land. So the only person that you will give you land to do any business are the state governors, they're the subnationals. So when you talk about ease of doing business, the key person is the subnationals. So the federal government stifles you with a lot of bureaucracy and under the guise of regulation. And then the state governments themselves with their local government taxes, and then makes it very difficult, hostile communities and things like that to be able to get things going. That is why you see a state like Ogun State is doing very well, because they've got the message, and you know they've got their ease of doing business right. Not only did we set up ease of doing business, but we also, when I was in trade and investment, we set up a competitiveness council to try to see how we can improve the competitiveness of our industry and our manufacturing and all the rest of the things that we do here. So it's about government policy, and I think that's one of the challenges the new industry trade and investment minister is addressing at the moment. So she needs to focus on that, and because no matter how much you talk about things, people talk about the experiences. When companies are leaving Nigeria, you know, how do you now begin to ask other companies to come into Nigeria? So because it is the example and the success of other companies that people look at and begin to follow. And that was what Obasanjo did. You know, he got all these companies, MTN came in, the rest of it, so he opened Nigeria. And it's not what he says, but the fact that people were coming.
What's on ground,
So not only did
not
only did a lot of people come, but a lot of people in diaspora in Nigeria who are working abroad, everybody started coming back home. All of a sudden, a middle class emerged. Banks were giving loans for cars, for white goods, and consumer spending exploded. So you need to we need to go back to that Obasanjo model, whereby, you know, you are working abroad and all of a sudden there's a job in Nigeria for you to do, and you say, okay, look, it's time for me to go back. So instead of what you are seeing now, we're now seeing the Japa syndrome, where people are leaving instead. So we need to reverse that, and you know, it's all about policy and confidence. Because this is why I'm very upset about this State House document. Because you see, we underestimate confidence.
So what's your take on education and skills, healthcare and SME / innovation? I think those are low-hanging fruits. What is it sufficiently appreciated, and where are we on that? You know, I'm talking about education and skills, healthcare and SME / innovation.
See, despite a lot of all these things, we're still getting a lot of people we're training in this country going abroad and doing well. Innovation, we're doing well on the fintech side. We have about 5 unicorns in Nigeria. And that's one area where we've seen, despite or in spite of all the challenges, we've seen what can be done. Are we
paying attention, and are we supporting it deliberately?
We need to pay attention to all these things, because we understand the standards of education has gone down.
Are we deliberate about it?
But we need to be, because you all know what the level of education was in this country before. There's a big oil company that was a client to us before, and they were complaining that when they took they used to come and recruit Nigerians here, and they would send them abroad straight away, and they were working, they were doing well. But now they cannot come and get that Nigerian graduates and send them to all the international destinations anymore. And
you need to microwave
they
again,
need to sit them and they need to train them in. They need to be in the system 3 to 4 years before they can start going back out. And even those, they said the brilliant ones amongst them, a year after they've employed them, they'll send them on a scholarship to do a master's. But they say now, you know, it's taking much longer. So that is really where you see the challenge. So that is one strength that we need to have. And I think you can look at India, the Delhi Institute of Technology. You can see that even the Microsofts and the top people, they went to school in India. But the global companies go to that school to
was a deliberate policy and pursuit.
Deliberate policy. So we need to have centers of excellence. Even if all the other institutions are not good, let's find 2 or 3 centers of excellence.
And just concentrate on that and know what you want to export in terms of human capital. So now, Tilewa, very importantly, because communication is very close to my house, and messaging. I don't think, I'm not sure this government is rated highly enough on communication and messaging. I'm not sure, do people really understand how important messaging and signaling is? How important is communication and messaging, especially in troubled times?
You said something now. You know, if you don't
If you don't tell, you don't sell.
If you don't tell it, you can't sell it.
Yes.
And I think that has just summarized it, because look at what happened. Look at what this Bayo Ononuga gentleman did with that document. A Minister of Finance submits something and it's draft. You do not even have any business communicating about the economy. We do not want to hear from a State House presidential spokesman about the economy. The only person that talks about the economy is the Minister of Finance and the coordinating minister, the central bank governor, maybe the chief economic advisor, and the president himself. Those are the only 4 people that talk about the economy. And it has to come directly from them.
Yes.
You know, why doesn't the MPC hand over its communication to the State House to no, because the markets and the authority wants confidence.
Yes.
So like I've said, I've engaged most of the ministers involved with the economy, and I've told them, including the central bank governor, that the key, I'm not the one that's going to tell your story. There are many things you're doing and trying to do that I get and I understand. We've had a good discussion. But for God's sake, you need to go out there and sell it to people, because don't forget that people are suffering. So you need to be able to tell them that, please, we understand your pain. So give us, you know,
benefit
this is what
doubt.
we're doing. Give us benefit. And by the time you begin to see results, then people can now begin to feel, okay, maybe buy into your program, because they have not sold these programs. You know, you have to get buy-in of the constituency, because otherwise people are just going to feel that you are insensitive. And I said with the Betty Edu saga, you know that just doesn't, you know. So they need to go to rework a lot of all these things, because confidence is the most important.
It's everything. Confidence, messaging, signaling is the most important thing in leadership and in management. And if government is not getting it right, I'm happy we're ending with that. Please listen. You can get those experts. They are all over the place. There are plenty in Nigeria who can. We don't need propagandists around government.
Yes, exactly. Not propaganda, proper message.
We need strategic communication around government. So thank you very much, Tilewa. I'm happy we're ending on a happy note.
And that's it on The Discourse with Dr. Ken.